video obtained by ABC News appears to show the fury of the Turkish attack on the border town of Tel Abyad.
A border town bombarded by Turkey's military. This video right here appearing to show Turkey's military bombing Kurd civilians in a Syrian border town. The Kurds, who fought alongside the U.S. against ISIS. Now, horrific reports of atrocities committed by Turkish-backed fighters on those very allies.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to the Whistling in the Dark podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Bradley. This is episode 37. Today is Monday, October 14th, 2019. And what you just heard was part of the ongoing, most recent hysteria. Well, according to Twitter or wherever else, it's mainly about Trump. But it just so happens to actually intersect with a topic that the listeners of this podcast would be very familiar with, which is the Middle East. And so that clip, as you heard ABC News claiming, was a horrific attack on the Kurds after Donald Trump ordered the U.S. military to vacate an area in northern Syria where U.S. soldiers were basically in between Turkey and the Kurds. So, we'll get into that, but it turns out, so this is the Washington Examiner, and the article is ABC News: slaughter in Syria footage appears to come from a Kentucky gun range. A man named Beckett Adams wrote this earlier today. So he says, are you distrustful of the coverage of what is happening now in northern Syria between the Kurds and the Turkish army? You have good reason to be. ABC aired supposedly shocking footage Monday and Sunday purporting to be from the frontline battle between the Syrian Kurds and the invading Turks. The only problem is the footage appears to come from a nighttime machine gun demonstration at the Knob Creek gun range in West Point, Kentucky. So, I mean, just, absolutely outrageous. I mean, it's so bad. It's hard to believe, that they would just take some footage. I mean, from a U.S. gun range, and why not at least take it from other war footage in the Middle East or in Syria? I mean, I've been fighting a war in Afghanistan for 18 years. I'm sure there's some footage that you could get. It would probably look a hell of a lot more like what was happening in Syria. I mean, this video was like a wooded area, and they're firing machine gun fire into it, and I don't know. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about probably a short episode. I mainly wanted to talk about this Syria, pulling the troops out of northern Syria, or at least relocating them. Not so much about, the strategic or military kind of aspects of it, but more how just baffled I've been in the last several days. I forget when this started. Maybe it started on Friday. But with people's reaction to this, and certainly not surprised by the media coverage of it. But, we'll get into that. And maybe a few other topics. We have what I thought was pretty interesting. There's an NBA owner tweeted or was talking about some in support of Hong Kong and the protesters there and the kind of reaction and backlash to that. I saw the Joker movie. There was a lot of sort of ridiculous stuff around that, of course, and possibly this Ukraine whistleblower stuff. I'm not. I haven't been hugely invested in it, but I did want to sort of just talk about it more in context of what has been going on the last several years, and in particular, the last year and a half since I've been doing this podcast. I've been paying a lot more attention pretty consistently to the media, and without knowing a single detail, it smells funky. So, I do know some details now, but when I first, I think a friend showed me something on his phone about, and, my response was just, they came after him for 2 years and spent all that money and all those resources for this Russia collusion that was just a complete whiff. And so, I have trouble getting up for this one. This seems way more half-assed an attempt. And they've released the transcripts. I think Trump is actually the one that put him out there. But as far as I can tell, or as far as I know and everything I've heard, there's nothing impeachable in there. So I don't know. It's kind of dying down. Oh, and I did want to talk about Project Veritas. They had a CNN whistleblower come out. So we'll see. And if you don't know about Project Veritas, I'll try to give a little background on that. But the big thing to me is the Trump Syria pullout, and more importantly, the reaction to it. So I'll start by saying I was surprised that this was such a focus and that it garnered just so much attention. And this is outside of actual new wars that we've gotten into, various large offenses or, big events. This small troop movement, from what I understand, I think we're talking in the number of hundreds of troops. I think they may be speaking about a single base. I'm not 100% on that. But I believe that at this point, we only have about 2,000 troops in Syria altogether, and this isn't all of them. And I believe we're talking about troops numbering in the hundreds and moving them somewhere. And this has been the biggest news. I doubt there's any military maneuver during Obama's presidency, the 8 years, that got more attention than this. And yeah, so that was my first response to this, was that why all of a sudden do people, and obviously it's mainly Democrats, but it was a bit bipartisan either, because the neocons are sort of opposed to, anything resembling anti-war. So, for instance, Lindsey Graham spoke out against it. A I believe, South Carolina senator. But, you know, all the Democrat politicians or voters that were asleep for 8 years of Obama absolutely wreaking havoc across the Middle East, and all of a sudden they wake up now, and they wake up at what, at least at first blush, doesn't seem to be such a major, I don't know, move. I mean, Trump's, in the sense of what would really wake up the true powers behind this war machine, something that could threaten ending a war or wars. And Trump actually talking about, well, I mean, to be fair, the Democrats went after him for peace talks with the Taliban. So the Democrats, and I'm talking about the main, obviously, like the leadership, not certainly Tulsi Gabbard, for one, is not opposed to having peace talks or pulling out of the Middle East in any way, and she is a Democrat. The only, maybe I can pull it up, because people blast Rand Paul all the time, and I'm not saying it's not deserved, but I believe that Rand Paul was the only person that I saw that is any sort of significant, role in government. It's amazing how bloated Facebook has gotten now. It used to be so fast and lean, and now it's just loading 10 million things at once. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just on Twitter or something. But I promise you that Rand Paul supported this, and he's like the only one. Everybody coming out. Here we go. Everybody coming out, blasting Trump on this. Maybe not Mike Pence, the vice president, but probably almost everybody else. Rand Paul, he says, when he was asked or something about sending troops to help the Turks and Kurds get along is not in our national interest. We should vote on it in Congress and declare war if that's what the people want. And so he's sticking very close to the same message that his father, Ron Paul, kept up for all these years. For all those years. Reforming democracy. Yeah. So, sorry for getting sort of slowed up there. Now, so that's Rand Paul says, if we can save one American soldier from losing their life or limbs in another senseless Middle Eastern war, it is worthwhile. The real Donald Trump knows this, yet the bloodlust of the neocons knows no bounds. Think about that. He leaves this right on the doorstep of the neocons as far as the negativity or whatever, that they are just so freaked out. And look what Nancy Pelosi, pleased to have a conversation with the Senator Lindsey Graham. This morning, our first order of business was to agree that we must have a bipartisan, bicameral joint resolution to overturn the president's dangerous decision in Syria immediately. So I think I think that without any exaggeration or any qualification, I think Nancy Pelosi can be safely lumped in as a neocon. When she's absolutely against pulling out of Syria. She wants to fight. I'm sure she wants more troops. And she is a proponent of endless war, as that's what this is a part of. You can always make up a reason. You can always, so this whole thing has been couched in this idea that the Kurds were our allies and helped us to fight ISIS. So that's basically been the running narrative, that Trump has betrayed our special friends, the Kurds. The Kurds are the same people that Saddam Hussein gassed and absolutely brutalized while, under our protection and getting our funding. We didn't give a fuck about the Kurds then. I mean, we've never really cared about the Kurds, but we also never care about anybody in the Middle East at all, because it's never been about anything resembling freedom or liberty, doing the right thing, helping poor or disenfranchised people. It's never been about, it's never been about overthrowing dictators. None of that. It's all about the power. It's all about continuing the money flow, getting more control, they do not care what religion these people are. They do not care if they're secular. They do not care if they're horrible dictators. All they care about is, will they play ball with us? And us, I don't believe, is the United States. I believe it is a supranational group of very, very wealthy men and a limited number of women. So that's what I think is going on. And they are playing on the sympathy for, these Kurdish people. When we created ISIS, I mean, to me, the most stark example or statistic I've heard is that after 9/11, there were less than 1,000 total Al-Qaeda members. They numbered in the hundreds. When ISIS was peaking, they had somewhere around 100,000 soldiers. That's what this war, or these wars collectively, that's what they unleashed on the Middle East. They unleashed an army of 100,000 ultra radical soldiers that were, just trying to take over everything. And as they always, Scott Horton will always remind us, and Tulsi Gabbard went to Syria herself to talk to people, to talk to the actual citizens of Syria. And she asked again and again about these rebels. Because remember, the story we're told is that there actually are three groups fighting. You have Assad and the Syrian army. You have ISIS or Al-Qaeda. And then you have the Syrian rebels, who we're told is a third distinct group. And the United States has to come in at defense because this, what we're told, is a natural uprising of the people of Syria against their oppressive dictator. But what every non-neocon has come out and said is that there is no third group. There is ISIS, Al-Qaeda, whatever you want to call them, the Sunni rebels, and there's Assad's army. And there's just a bunch of fucking innocent civilians caught in the middle. And so if you have, any doubt that the United States started this war, now's the time to let go of that. Because this war is ISIS versus Syria. And ISIS is a U.S. creation. Remember, less than 1,000 in 2001, and then upwards of 100,000 soldiers that then started to invade Syria. And we fought alongside them. U.S. troops fought with them in Syria and against them in Iraq. And I have no idea what they do with them in Yemen. We've talked about that before, but there's certainly ISIS/Al-Qaeda in Yemen. And, they're Sunni, Saudi Arabia is Sunni, and the Houthis in Yemen are Shia. So, yeah, there's a natural alignment of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. ISIS and Saudi Arabia in Yemen, but I don't know that it's that simple. I don't know that it's just, oh, you're a Sunni, I'm a Sunni, we're all on the same team. But it's certainly a lot more friendly and at least somewhat allies, in that war. And there is absolutely no doubt the U.S. is now officially, behind Saudi Arabia in Yemen. So that means they are behind ISIS in Yemen and against the Houthis and against 1 million children starving to death there. The worst humanitarian crisis in the world. So we have all that. We have an 18-year war in Afghanistan. And I don't know, 1 million people have died in the Middle East as a result of these wars. And that's like actual casualties. I don't mean just about all the people that have starved in countries, because we've absolutely destroyed the infrastructure of this entire region, just many, many countries, absolutely sending them back to the Stone Ages. And now some hundreds of troops are moving, and Twitter is ablaze. And Donald Trump, they will never forgive us. Nancy Pelosi says, pleased to have a conversation with Senator Lindsey Graham this morning. Our first order of business was to agree that we must have a bipartisan, bicameral, which I don't know what that means. I think that might mean the House and the Senate joint resolution to overturn the president's decision in Syria immediately. And you look at the comments, it's just people are, people, you generally, right? You don't know what you don't know. But, you got to at least think that, hey, I haven't paid any attention to this, but you know what? They're just fed, they're barely alive at this point. And they're certainly not free thinkers And so ABC News, they run, some movie, a video from a Kentucky gun range and tell you the Kurds are getting slaughtered and people, that's it. It's done. I wonder how many people that just assumed that was true are ever actually going to reverse what they think. And to me, I think that's part of the trick. I think that's what they're realizing, or what they've learned in the last couple years. Well, they certainly advanced it as far as the propaganda techniques. I think the technique of lying egregiously, but giving it a lot of shock and awe, saying something crazy, just doesn't, not true, but I don't know, just making something say, Donald Trump was caught with, 3 underage boys having sex with them, and here's the account, the eyewitness account, blah, 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 and then 3 days later, put out recant that statement, but, do it in a half-hearted way. The damage is done. Do that over and over. And I think that there's some natural part of our brain machinery that just assumes where there's smoke, there's fire. At some point, like going from the Russian thing, which is a massive hoax, right? It started with the Steele dossier, which Hillary Clinton's campaign created, and then carry that for 2 years and bombard them with this, and then follow up now with the Ukraine thing. People just say, oh, well, maybe the Russian thing wasn't, I don't know, but what are the odds that both of these things aren't true? Probably 100% or 99, because whatever it is, CNN, ABC, NBC, they're fucking liars. They're lying with purpose is my point. Is they're not getting the story wrong. They are directing the thoughts of the American public by lying, and then just later possibly correcting the statement later. But it's too late, and it's funny. So people are responding to this. Wow, is this going to make any difference to the Kurds now? First, Trump told Turkey to go into Syria to do as they wish. Now you're all going to pretend like sanctions will fix it. Those sanctions will be removed eventually. It's too late. This is the reason why Trump was always worth impeaching. We were telling anyone who would listen that he was dangerous. Congress is the reason why he feels he can do whatever he wants to do. He needs to be impeached and removed immediately. Impeached, this is from Black with a Q 3G. So this fucking ding-dong thinks that Donald Trump should be impeached for pulling troops out of Syria, a place that we've never declared war, has never attacked us. It's not the United States. The Kurds are not a group of people in our country that are being threatened by somebody from outside of our country. This is a completely foreign country that absolutely does not consent to a U.S. occupation, but the U.S. has been in there for, I don't know how long they've been in Syria now, 5 years, 5+ years. And like this and I read it, right? This is just some fucking moron on Twitter, but I think that this person is pretty average. I think this is what a lot of my friends think. They think like this. They just don't really think. They're just fed, and then it starts to go in, and it appears like they're responding. Like in their mind, they don't realize that they're just regurgitating like a mashup of words that they've heard over the last week from all these different outlets that have this agenda to just drive this home to you. But they're doing it. And, the idea of impeaching a president for removing troops from a foreign nation that another president had started, that another president had invaded. Remember, like, the U.S. invaded Syria. This isn't anything but that. There's no way to spin this, right? No matter what any outside, no matter what China would ever say on Twitter, there's no way we would ever be okay with their troops here. And then coming up with some reason why they had to protect the Texans against, or some piece of Texas against Mexico, invasion. It's like, well, I don't know. Before we attacked Syria and fucked up that whole country, somehow the Kurds were like wherever the Kurds are, and Turkey wasn't going to attack Syria, right? I mean, like we started this. So, I don't know. Out of all the stuff, calling Trump a racist or whatever, sexist, all this stuff, which I think the racism part is just so agenda driven. I don't fucking know. Like, I really don't. I mean, this dude's been in the public spotlight for 30 years before he was a president. And you never once, ever once heard him accused of being racist or whatever. And now, he's the biggest racist of them all. I saw something with T.I. debating Alex Jones. What a fucking absurd debate that is. But, I just caught kind of some of the beginning, and he's like, look, man, like, I don't really know what he's done or what he's doing or blah, blah, blah. But I know that he's racist. It's like, what? Like, you don't know what he's done or what he's doing? Why do you even care then? If you don't know what if you don't know what the president does, I mean, why are you weighing in? Like, maybe find out a little bit first. I mean, you have no idea? He's killing a shit ton of people in the Middle East, just like your fucking Lord and Savior, Barack Obama. And just like the neocon savior before him, George Bush. They're all fucking murdering. But, and this is what I'm getting to. So why the outrage? Why does the media pick this up? Because remember, like, they're not reactionary. I don't believe that at this point, for the most part. I'm talking about the big media outlets like CNN, NBC, CBS, ABC, MSNBC. And I don't really know what the deal with Fox News is. I don't exactly know how they fit into this. But Fox News certainly loves its share of war. But at this point, they're probably the most anti-war of all the major media outlets. So why this? Why not pulling out of Afghanistan, but why this? And I believe that the reason, the theory is because this move is what ends this whole Syria thing. This is the move. And it seems so small, but, all these neocons and you know, Nancy Pelosi and all her neocon hombres, when it comes to war, they're not so dumb. You know, when Scott Horton talks about you know, how ridiculous what the fuck did we think when we took out Saddam? You obviously were going to wind up with a Shiite controlled Iraq, and you know, and then we wind up trying to kind of fight them, and then the ISIS comes in. It's like we're enemies with everybody, but depending on what side of the border we're on, we're friends, we're enemies, and there's one kind of take on this that, oh, they're a bunch of bumbling idiots. And I just don't see how the bumbling idiots are the most powerful people and how us super smart people are, you know, left just castrated on the sidelines, just ineffectually whining into a microphone. So I tend to give them the benefit of the doubt, the neocons or whomever. I think that they are probably very, very intelligent people behind them. And maybe it wasn't such a surprise that invading Iraq destabilized the whole region. Maybe they never believed their lie. That was just for the people. I mean, to me, that seems most likely true. So, but why would this end? Why would this end the Syrian? And it could be wrong, but it could be right. And I think the fact that it could be right is what is possibly leading to this sort of media outrage. And it's still funny, though. I mean, because it's not going to do anything, you know? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just can't see Trump responding to this and being like, oh, I was wrong. We should go back and fight Turkey, a NATO ally. Like, I think if we attack Turkey, the rest of the NATO countries would be like bound by the NATO agreement to like attack us or something crazy. So, but here's an article, and I believe this is I'm trying to see. Why is this like this? Antiwar.com. All of a sudden, it's all weird. Okay, this was like a top article there, and they say Syrian Kurds, Damascus, reach deal in Russia-backed talks. The Kurds will hand key cities to the Syrian army to defend. Syrian ground troops are moving north to confront invading Turkish forces per a deal that was reached by the Kurdish SDF and the Assad government. And this is from, as per The Guardian. In talks, the deal sees the Kurds unilaterally handing over two important cities, Kobane and Manbij, both in the Aleppo province, to the central government to rule. This means Turkey's invasion of those cities would be a direct invasion of Syrian cities under government control. Those two cities are also where Syrian's army is heading first. This would make Turkey attacking those cities more controversial and also raises the possibility of Russia intervening on the government's behalf. Kobane is a Kurdish-dominated city on the immediate border with Turkey. It was repeatedly contested by ISIS during the war and would likely be an early target as Turkey's troops fan out in the 30-kilometer safe zone. Manbij, on the Arab majority city seized from ISIS in a U.S.-backed offensive, is about 30 kilometers from the border, but would clearly be a prize for Turkey's Arab rebel allies would cover. Mind you, the Turkey Arab rebel allies are ISIS. So, you know, once again, the Syrian, that I think they call it the Free Syrian Army or whatever, that's ISIS. That is Al-Qaeda. That is not some fucking independent freedom movement that grew up. You know, it's not what you're seeing in Hong Kong right now. It's ISIS. While the terms of an overall deal are not publicly known, superficially the plan seems to be for Syria's military to assume defense of the westernmost territory of what Turkey is attacking, freeing up more Kurdish fighters to resist offensives further to the east. Syria had initially expressed an aversion to talking with the Kurdish SDF at all, calling them separatists and agents of Washington because of their longtime ties with the U.S. It's not clear that's entirely warranted, as the Kurdish political leadership had long envisioned a post-war solution with semi-autonomy within a federalized Syria. Russia, who has advocated a federal system post-war, clearly wanted to get these two sides together. The Syrian government never agreed to Kurdish autonomy, and it is speculated that the deal might spell at least a partial end to that. In the near term, however, both sides are more worried about slowing a Turkish invasion than about running day-to-day operations across Syria. So there you have it. The fucking slaughter of the Kurds looks to have been thwarted. So that is one lie down. As much to the chagrin of Pelosi and her neocon friends, this is the worst possible outcome for them. Do you see that? This is it. This is what they don't want to have happen. This is like everything they don't want. Assad strengthened. Russia playing the intermediary, not us. We're not the ones that are brokering peace in the United States. No, we're the ones bringing death. We bring death and war and destruction. And I mean, I'm not saying Russia isn't, terrible too, but they seem to be pretty easily able to come in and negotiate this thing that Pelosi and the neocons just could not imagine occurring just days ago. But somehow I could. Somehow I knew this. And it's not because I've been studying Syrian Kurdish, relations. It's because, I don't know, I listen to Scott Horton and Tom Woods and read antiwar.com. This is what people figured. People were like, hey, yeah, this isn't the best thing. It's not like ideal, but the instant we step away and things look better for everybody involved. So don't believe the hype, is what I'm saying. Because we need to get out of there. There's hardly anything more important than getting U.S. troops out of the Middle East, out of all these wars, So yeah, so that's all I think I'm gonna finish that topic there. And I do want to keep this pretty short. And I would like to talk about the NBA owner tweeting about Hong Kong. So I'll try. I got an article here. This is from The Ringer. I don't know what this. I don't think there's much in dispute as far as what was said. But The Ringer. This is from about a week ago. So Daryl Morey's Hong Kong tweet has put his relationship with the Rockets in limbo. The Houston general manager. Oh, this was a general manager. I'm sorry, I wasn't even the owner. That's kind of interesting. Didn't realize that. Came out in support of the protest movement in Hong Kong and the backlash from Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta. Fertitta, Chinese government, and Chinese business interests have rocked the franchise in the NBA. Rocked the Rockets. Clever writing. The Houston Rockets suddenly find themselves in the middle of a geopolitical controversy that could put their chief front office executive's job in jeopardy. After general manager Daryl Morey expressed support in a since deleted tweet for pro-democracy efforts in Hong Kong. Let's see, they have a link here if I can. Never mind. The Chinese government, the Chinese Basketball Association, and various Chinese businesses quickly denounced Morey and moved to sever ties with the Rockets. As a consequence, league sources told The Ringer the Rockets ownership has debated Morey's employment status and whether to replace him. Imagine that. Imagine this guy is in favor of these people in Hong Kong who are trying to keep or get their freedom from, you know, one of the most oppressive, murderous governments on the face of the earth. Particularly when you look at the murdering of their own people. I mean, China hasn't been nearly as offensively bloody as us, as the U.S., but inside their borders, they're absolutely horrible. And all this shit about how they're liberalizing, you know, economically, they're getting more freedom. That's true in a limited sense for sure. But it's still a third world country, and it is still a communist, hardcore communist regime with very strict control of its population, and they are still disappearing people to this day for stepping out of line. Anyway, so the NBA or the Rockets are thinking about getting, and you know, let's see, but I kind of want to go through this article because, as usual, I'm as interested in the actual topic as much as the way it's discussed, reading between the lines or what's not said. So, you know, the Ringer seems to not, you know, they certainly haven't said anything yet to imply that they don't think that it's pretty reasonable to fire this man over supporting the protesters in Hong Kong. So, you know, yeah, you should be fired unless you, I mean, so I wonder if he came out like pro-China and like, they'd be like, oh, all right. So on Sunday, the Chinese Basketball Association, it's issued a statement on Weibo, a Chinese social media platform akin to Twitter, except, you know, I'm sure it's owned by China, like directly controlled by, I mean, our social media is certainly infected by the government, but, you know, the Chinese Basketball Association, I doubt that's a private corporation either. And expressed its strong opposition to what it called Morey's improper remarks regarding Hong Kong. As a result, the CBA said it was suspending exchanges and cooperation with the Rockets. The Chinese consulate in Houston also issued a statement saying it was deeply shocked by Morey's erroneous comments and expressed strong dissatisfaction. The consulate also urged the Rockets to correct the error and take immediate, concrete measures to eliminate the adverse impact. I mean, just fuck China, man. Fuck them. Like, they're fuck the Chinese government. I mean, seriously, like, it's wild, you know? I mean, this is so. I'll say this. I think this is an issue I've kind of slept on. And this is something that, I mean, beyond I mean, almost everything that I've heard on this subject has been from Alex Jones. He has been freaking out for years about, he always calls them the Chi-Coms, but China's increased influence and owning all of these U.S. businesses. And I mean, look at this control. And it's one thing for the, right? Kim Jong-un or Kim Jong-il, I forget if he's un or ill. The one that's alive now could say something crazy about an NBA owner, right? But the NBA is not going to do anything. It doesn't care what that guy says. I don't care what these, Chinese officials say or whatever. But it's that the NBA might listen. The Rockets might fire this guy. Morning, the Rockets are currently in Tokyo as part of an NBA slate of preseason games in Asia. Representatives for the Rockets did not immediately reply to questions via email, and attempts to reach Mori for comment were unsuccessful. So the article continues. So what exactly happened? On Friday evening, Mori tweeted and then quickly deleted an image that said, "Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong." That prompted Rockets owner Tim Fertitta to publicly rebuke Mori. I mean, this is some serious fucking upside down world shit. Unbelievable that this is a crazy stance. I mean, look at the two topics. I the positions I'm taking are not mainstream. Apparently, it is not mainstream to show support for the protesters in Hong Kong. And it is not mainstream to show support for pulling troops out of Syria and finally, hopefully, ending our occupation of this country and our attack and invasion of it. What's the relationship between China and Hong Kong at the moment? Extremely strained. Hong Kong is a special administrative region of the People's Republic of China. Anyway, what's the Rockets' relationship with China? Previously excellent, according to a recent survey. The Rockets were the second most popular team in China. That's no surprise, given the fact that Yao Ming played there. Just trying to get through this. Functional impact, who fucking cares? Okay, well, let me look up a couple of things, or just a couple of notes that I had on this. It's not long at all, but that ain't it. That ain't it. Nope. Here. So, what I found, I mean, if there is one ray of hope, is that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver defended Morey, I think, is a values-based organization that we want to make it clear that Daryl Morey is supported in terms of his ability to exercise his freedom of expression. Silver said in an interview with the news in Japan. So China, I don't even know who this what this was, but their response, CCTV, so some, fucking China communist TV, they did not agree with Silver's remarks. We are strongly dissatisfied and we oppose Silver's claim to support Morey's right of free expression. We believe that any speech that challenges national sovereignty and social stability is not within the scope of freedom of speech. And now imagine that this Morey guy, Morey or whatever, the Rockets GM, was inside of China, was a Chinese citizen. They would shut him the fuck up, right? They don't have, freedom of expression, freedom of speech. And this is why you don't want to limit the First Amendment. This is why this shit, what is hate speech? What is, they had, I want to find this guy's name. An interview, Dave Smith, he just had a guy on there on Wednesday, Nick Fuentes. And Nick Fuentes considers himself a paleo-conservative or something. Basically means he wants, white people to control the government. Outside of that, I really didn't hear. He said he used to be a libertarian and then he became an idiot. But this is the thing. There is being for a large state or powerful authoritarian government, and there's being against it. And this Nick Fuentes thinks that he is the opposite of China, but he's actually the same. We strongly are dissatisfied and we oppose Silver's claim to support Maury's right of free expression. First of all, maybe they got messed up in translation or something from Chinese, because we oppose Silver's claim to support Maury's right of free expression. It's a very clunky sentence. I get they don't like it. I get they're negative. They're not happy. But we believe that any speech that challenges national sovereignty and, even more vague, social stability is not within the scope of freedom of speech. See? You just free, it's it is a slippery slope. It is. And hate speech should be protected. It has to be, because whoever defines what hate speech is, they're taught, like, why can't you have hate speech? Well, because it challenges the social stability. And now, look, you're fucking China now. It's you don't even need new laws at this point. You just start to explain the reason and you're there. And you're Nick Fuentes, because he wants to shut up all the people that he thinks are communists or whatever. He wants to use government force and violence to shut them up. But it's like, you can't, you do that and you are it. It's the very thing you're trying to shut up is what you would become. So that's all I wanted to say about that. I really don't know where that's going. It's not, obviously it's not, this is more on the cultural side, and I would say, I think most people in the US, they don't know a ton about what's going on over there, but probably people, I don't think the propaganda machine has quite gotten to making the U.S. populace pro-China and anti-Hong Kong. But, this is a way, right? When the people with the loudest voices are now gonna get silenced or naturally silence themselves over this kind of thing and start to accept these types of statements, that we believe that any speech that challenges national sovereignty and social stability is not within the scope of freedom of speech. The more that comes in to mainstream, thinking or acceptance. I don't know. Gather. So the last thing. Oh, also, it's funny. So this morning, Turkey's, what the hell is this guy? Erdogan signals imminent assault on Syrian Kurdish-held city of Manbij. This comes, right. So they're going to attack a Syrian city. We'll see how that goes, but I can tell you, I'm sure Turkey's a whole hell of a lot less excited about attacking a Syrian-held city than, a Kurdish area, and I'm not totally sure. Like, I don't really know even what the deal is, right? Like, what as far as like where, like what, why are they attacking at all right now? I don't know. But the other topic I just wanted to touch on real quick, and again, I'm not really going to give a big background on Project Veritas. You can look it up. They are not banned as of yet. They have almost 400,000 followers on Twitter. They have a lot of Facebook followers. They did a big expose on Google, and all this shit keeps falling on deaf ears. But they found they got the president of CNN basically on a lot of audio of him really going after Trump and telling them they got to keep the heat on him, and a lot of people going on kind of having secret cameras recording people that are basically just there's a total agenda here. Not surprising, but let's see, we can maybe pull it up. Hold up. Here is okay. Here we go.
I don't care about the other stuff in the event. Okay, I don't care about them. Let's just stay very focused on impeachment.
My name is Kerry.
Okay, so that is the president, right? So this is in their 9 a.m. call or something for the day, and this is kind of what they're talking about. They're saying they can kind of feel however they feel about Trump, but they are just basically forced in. Forced. Certainly they can just leave CNN, right? Boo-hoo. But they are continually directed, and there was something about some other stuff this reporter wanted them to talk about, and this guy Zucker, the president, says keep the heat on. All we want to talk about is impeachment, and what do you hear? Impeachment, right? And how does this stuff get like this? It's because it's crafted to be that way, guys like this. And then who are his bosses, or who's he colluding with, to use one of their terms.
Morning, everybody. Okay, let's start with Washington, please. I don't care about the other stuff in the event. Okay, I don't care about them. Let's just stay very focused on impeachment.
My name is Kerry Porch. I'm a satellite uplink technician. I'm a contractor at the CNN Washington, D.C. Bureau.
But Jeff Zucker, basically president of CNN, has a personal vendetta against Trump. It's not going to be positive for Trump. He hates him. He's going to be negative.
I decided to wear a hidden camera.
He created a house, and I'm going to get him full play every single day. The media created the Trump.
I decided to secretly record the 9 a.m. rundown call meetings, and it's basically run by Jeff Zucker, the president of CNN.
We're moving towards impeachment. We shouldn't pretend, this is going one way, and so all these moves are moves towards impeachment.
When I came to work at CNN, it was my dream job, and that dream actually just turned into a nightmare.
So I want to say on Lindsey Graham front, I know that there's a lot of people at CNN that are friendly with Lindsey Graham. Time to knock that off, and it's time to call him out. I think what's going on in America now is really fundamentally the result of years of fake news, conspiracy nonsense from Fox News.
He was calling Fox News fake news and a propaganda machine, and with what I saw, I'm like, that's pretty much what CNN was. It's just pumping out propaganda.
The fake conspiracy nonsense that Fox has spread for years is now deeply embedded in American society, and frankly, that is non-destructive to America, and I do not think we should be scared to say so.
I just wanted to own where they're at. Hey, if we lean left, cool. Let's just say we lean left. If we lean right, let it be known. But again, it just dovetails back into that thing. I just want people to have the information to make up their own minds.
So that's the 2-minute overview. I'm not sure how long the full video is. I actually haven't watched it. I've watched little bits of it. But yeah, you should check that out. They've definitely done some really interesting work in the past, and shed some light on some things, and it's definitely worth looking into. So, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. It's pretty obvious. I don't think, what I've heard from them isn't terribly shocking. I'm not sure if that would be shocking to your average CNN listener. I doubt it would be very shocking to your average Fox News listener to hear what the president of CNN actually thinks. I'm not sure that he hides what he's thinking when he's in public. I honestly have not heard Zucker before. I don't think so, at least. So, but, I think that final point is really the key, and that it's, hey, say whatever you want, but if you are claiming to be, objective, then you're definitely lying. So, that it is clear beyond a shadow of a doubt from these tapes that CNN has an agenda. Attack Fox News, attack Trump, impeachment. And they even specifically call out Lindsey Graham. No longer, we got to go after him now. I don't remember. I don't know what exact time of, this was in. So not sure what was the motivation there. But so now I thought their Google project was pretty shocking. And they got people on camera talking about the ability to fix elections and what they've done in the past, what they did in the last election and stuff, or change results and control this stuff. That was, I thought, very shocking. This is, I think, kind of just confirmation of what I've just already assumed with a high degree of certainty was true. I would have been amazed if what Project Veritas found out was actually the Zucker guy's a real straight shooter. He's a centrist. Yeah, he sometimes goes left, he sometimes goes right. He's but he takes every move by Trump. He really analyzes the pros and cons, and he lets his people also come to their own conclusions. That is not what I thought was happening. And apparently it is not what was happening. So there you have that. And so a little bit shorter episode today, about an hour, a little under 10 hour and 10 minutes. Not bad. I don't think I need to talk for 2 hours every time. I wanted to jump in. Now, I've got some very cool stuff coming up. I'm actually hopefully recording it tomorrow. Be my first interview on Whistling in the Dark. Not my first interview ever. I used to do radio, just Georgia Tech radio, but we were like a legit radio station. We're just on the FM dial. I don't remember what the 91 something. Anyway, did that. I interviewed a lot of people there over the years. I also did some interviews kind of off-site. Best interview, I interviewed Ninth Wonder, the producer. That was super cool. But yeah, a lot of people. But I've never done it on video. And that's our goal. So we could be releasing. Now, how we'll do it is we'll record the audio the same way. We'll set up 2 mics. So we'll each have our own, and it'll go through all this. So it still should be quality audio that I'll still upload as normal for the podcast. But on YouTube, I'll actually upload the video with the good audio. So hopefully we will be able to get that. It's it's the first time really doing this, so I'm having to kind of pull some resources together from people and cameras and people to help out with it. So hopefully everybody's schedule, it was supposed to be tonight, but one of people had to cancel, so hopefully tomorrow night I'll get that. And then I'm not really sure how long, so that's why I wasn't concerned. I figured I'd just do this today, because I imagine actually editing the video, I can't just do what I do on the podcast and just wing it and then upload it. We're gonna we'll have 2 cameras and splice it together, and we'll actually have to make sure everything syncs up because with the audio, and so I imagine that it's going to be a bit more time consuming. So check that out. Should be some cool stuff, some interesting kind of little bit more out there than I normally do, but don't want to put it out there as who it is yet until I kind of get it locked in. But keep an eye out, and until then, be happy that we're pulling troops. I don't know, I guess we didn't even really pull them out, we just moved them. But hey, we moved them out of harm's way a little bit. Maybe they'll actually get to leave. Forever and ever be opposed to these foreign wars. And we'll see where it goes. I still don't have a lot of faith in Donald Trump, but every once in a while, it does something like this, which is surprising. And why would he do this? Like, what other benefits is there? I mean, there's fucking, it's just goddamn Kurdistan in Syria. Like, you're just basically getting control, allowing Syria to have control of its own country back. They're probably going to be able to get control of the oil fields that they have will get more secure. So, but that's it. And I will talk to you guys soon, and hopefully on video. Peace.